Today we're going to be learning about the demographic transition models created by Warren Thompson in 1929. Warren Thompson was a demographer, which is someone that studies population. He had observed changes or transitions in birth and death rates and industrialized societies over the previous 200 years. So, as with all models, this is an idealized picture of population changes. It makes generalizations that may not apply to all individual cases. About 10 to 12,000 years ago, we had the first agricultural revolution, which granted us the ability to domesticate crops and build settlements through farming. Cities developed, populations grew, which led us to the Industrial Revolution in the 1700s, and it diffused from England along with the Second Agricultural Revolution that improved crop fertilization and storage capacities. We look at factors limiting population growth, famine, epidemics, plagues, wars, and then factors enhancing population growth, agricultural advances, industrial revolution, sanitation, healthcare, education, and vaccinations. The DTM demographic transition model helps explain and predict patterns in population over time. A geographical model is used to explain processes of change from high birth rates and high death rates to low birth rates and low death rates as part of the economic development of a country from a pre-industrial to an industrialized economy. Here we are, birth and death rates. As you see, we have population going up as death and birth rates. The model of population change, if you look at how population structure of countries like the UK change, it is possible to identify 4 stages. The UK was the first to experience the Industrial Revolution. As we see here in stage 1, we have high birth rate and high death rate, low natural increase. The population is growing very slowly. Then we have a high for stage 2, a high birth rate and decreasing death rate, large natural increase, rapid growth in population. Stage 3, we have both birth and death rates that are falling. Still a large natural increase, population is still growing, but at a much slower rate. And then once you reach stage 4, that is low birth and death rate, low natural increase, slow population growth. The demographer's toolbox, we look at the CBR, the crude birth rate. That is the number of live births per 1,000 people in a year. And then the crude death rate, CDR, number of deaths per 1,000 people in a year. Some MDCs, or more developed countries, are experiencing higher death rates than in LDCs, less developed countries. They have graying populations with higher percentages of elderly people in their populations, better health care, improved life expectancy, lower birth rates among young generations. We also look at the RNI, or rate of natural increase. It is the percentage by which a population grows in a year, excluding immigration and emigration. We also look at the TFR, total fertility rate, average number of children a woman will have in her childbearing years, which is the age of 15 to 45. As of 2010, less developed regions are experiencing the highest rates of natural increase, whereas more developed regions have lower RNIs. The higher a population's RNI, the lower, shorter, is the population's doubling time, or amount of time needed for the population to double in size. DTM Stage 1. Birth and death rates are fairly high, but because food sources can change quickly, these rates fluctuate or are unpredictable, such as hunting and gathering. It is a pre-industrial society. CBR and CDR are extremely high, thus creating a low RNI, since CBR and CDR are nearly equal, though high. They fluctuate, though minimally because of disease, famine, drought, and war. Most people in stage 1 are hunters and gatherers or subsistence farmers. Stationary stage or in equilibrium because CBR and CDR are nearly equal and not moving. All countries have progressed past stage 1 largely through the diffusion of medical technology from more developed countries in the late 20th century during the medical revolution. With improved medicine reaching more places, people in these poorer regions have longer life expectancies, LE, which, coupled with the already high birth rates in these regions, led to higher population growth rates. Stage 2. Birth rates are high and death rates are starting to decline. We have rapid population growth. It's called the early expanding stage. The CBR, the crude birth rate, remain high, but the CDR, crude death rate, decline as new healthcare systems, such as improved medical supplies, arrive. CBR still remains high because most families are still subsistence farmers, and because the CBR is often a deeply rooted cultural tradition and cannot be easily changed. Because the CBR remains high and the CDR declines, the RNI increases and population expansion is at a high rate. Many less developed countries are currently in stage 2. Some examples of those would be Yemen, Afghanistan, Palestine, Bhutan, Laos, and much of sub-Saharan Africa. Many have actually moved into stage 3 though. There have been improvements in food supply, crop rotation, selective breeding, seed drill technology, improvements in public health, water supply, sewerage, food handling, personal hygiene, vaccination, and a population explosion. Now it's what leads us to stage 3, where births are still higher than deaths, but the growth is slowing down. This is a moderate growth expanding stage. The CBR begins to fall because families decide to lower their birth rates in response to changing conditions, such as moving to cities to work in factories and improved health conditions, which cause children to live longer. Women also have more opportunities in industrializing economies. RNI is decreasing because the CBR is dropping closer to the already lower CDR, but is still greater than 0. Thus, the population is still expanding in size. Most Latin American and Asian countries are in this stage today. We have increasing urbanization. It raises the cost of having dependent children. Compulsory education acts education of parents, family planning, increasing female literacy and employment, contraceptives, all lead to this. Some examples of countries in stage 3 would be Costa Rica, El Salvador, Jamaica, Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, South Africa, and India. Stage 4, the last stage in the DTM, birth rates continue dropping and could lead to 0 population growth. Fewer children because of the economic liability. So rather than it being an asset, the children are now a liability. In addition, greater economic opportunities for women mean they may choose to not have children. It is a low stationary stage, low growth. CBR, the crude birth rate, falls and meets the CDR, crude death rate, at equally low levels, thus reaching equilibrium or a stationary status. Because the CBR and CDR are reaching equilibrium, the RNI stabilizes at a lower level, close to 0 population growth. Okay, in the future, we are considering adding a stage to this model, stage 5. New stage of developed nations with low birth rates and steady death rates, negative population growth. Some geographers say that there is a stage 5, that the UK, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Japan have already reached that and have the negative population growth. Graying population trends, the CBR would drop below the CDR, causing a population decline or a negative RNI. Lastly, as you see here, this is what it would look like for the stage 5 with the natural decrease. We would have family planning, good health, improving status of women, later marriages, good health care, reliable food supply, similar to stage 4. And here we are with countries in different stages of the demographic transition model. Yellow is stage 4, light orange is stage 3, and dark orange is stage 2.